Hello everyone, and we are jumping right back into the ranked grind. So this is the same deck that we've had for our last deck on that Path to Mythic series, and this is going to do a great job for us when it comes to securing wins for our games. Now, of course, I kept with this deck up until I got down to early Platinum. And then about halfway through this video, you're going to see a new deck that we're going to be taking onto the ranked ladder. This deck is very powerful at pumping out wins, as you'll see, but you'll also notice that this deck is kind of slow, playing with more of a control and late game strategy. So we're just going to switch up to an aggro deck, so those of you who like playing aggro can have an idea on what's competitive on the ladder, and just kind of get some of those new play patterns for one of the aggro decks that I particularly liked while I'm going ahead and doing that ranked climb. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, on the play, we do have Herd Migration, which we can use to find our second forest for the Stomper, but we have a fairly limited access to mana here. We're going to take a mulligan instead. This is going to be much better for us. We have early interaction with Go for the Throat. I like this. Let's go ahead and keep 6, and I'm actually going to bottom our invasion here. Now, the reason I'm doing that is we have our briefcase for early ramp, which can help us out if we need to, but I'd much rather keep Sunfall just to deal with our opponent's deck. It looks like a soldier's deck as well, so we definitely made the right choice there. And we're going to play slow in the early game while we can. Go for the Throat is going to help us out. Find the invasion. I think we're just going to go with the briefcase here. We can then crack our briefcase as a treasure to get out our invasion that we just drew, which is going to give us some more lands. We're going to want access to blue and white off that invasion. We'll block the 3 damage here. We could Sunfall this turn, but I think we're going to wait. And actually, we're going to keep our treasure as well. Play out the forest here. And we'll grab both a blue and white land. We do have access to Domain now. So Herd Migration is going to be pretty good. Thalia, sure. Opponent's tapping out. We're looking at a really strong Sunfall next turn. Sunfall. And of course, that's going to give us a 6/6 for 2 mana, which is going to be really powerful on one of our later turns. Up the Beanstalk is going to be a strong pick for next turn, going to get us start drawing more cards. Siege Veteran, sure. Recruitment Officer, sure. We draw into another Sunfall. I mean, that's going to be game ending if our opponent expands their board presence anymore. We'll go ahead and play that out. That's fine. We're gonna wipe the board next turn, which will deal with that. Down to 2. Do we want to gain some life here? I think we're actually gonna be fine. Now, the reason we didn't transform this token is because we are planning on using Sunfall this turn. So that way we just don't kill our token, we still get to keep this 6/6. One card left in our opponent's hand. We're just going to use Leyline Binding now. Moving to my turn. Let's go for Atraxa here. Find some options. Alright, plenty of Leyline Bindings. Grab... We don't really need the Sunfall here, but, I mean, Let's think about what we actually want. Trying to not overfill our hand. We'll take a replacement Atraxa. We already have a Sunfall in hand. We'll grab the land, just because. We'll have to discard down to 7 at the end of turn. Looks like we've got it, though. Alright. And with that, looks like we've been promoted to Platinum. Alright, on the play, and the first part of our climb is complete. So we should be expecting some more difficult matchups. Now we don't have the black land that we're going to need for Virtue, but I'm putting a decent amount of faith in Up the Beanstalk finding us another land, along with our current draw. We're playing up against a Toxic deck, so the early Depopulate is actually pretty good for us. Let's play out the Briefcase now, since we can use that to block. Then, next turn, if we find the land, we play the land. Otherwise, we have Up the Beanstalk. I think best case would be untapped land, so we can go ahead and play out our Stomper. Well, look at that. Stomper. So now we need our second white land for Depopulate, so we will go ahead and do that. I know that Virtue is tempting, getting that black land, but since we're gonna have multiple spells that need double white being cast, like our Angel, it's gonna be more important to get that out onto the battlefield. I think I'm more afraid of Toxic than I am afraid of anything else. So we'll chump there. And then we have two choices. I think we're going to go with our next Briefcase, because that's going to ramp us. As well as Up the Beanstalk to draw an additional card. We'll end the turn here. And then after this, we might be looking at a Depopulate angle, depending on what our opponent does here. I kind of want to see them play out a bunch more creatures. Since they're playing a, like, Rakdos Yawgmoth deck, we'll just block there. Again, keep the poison counters away from us. We can wipe the board next turn. Drawing a bunch of cards. We may or may not see more creatures on the board here. It would be ideal if we did. Yep, there we go. Every extra creature our opponent plays is another creature that we can kill with Depopulate. So let's reset our board real quick. Next turn, our opponent's probably gonna spend some of their energy rebuilding that board. We can use Topiary Stomper to get a black land. We might even use Virtue to destroy a creature that they play. We have a couple of different options. Shieldred. Alright, so pre-draw, I think we use Leyline Binding. We'll draw 2. Get rid of the Shieldred, because we don't want to deal with that. And I think we're just going to play Jetmir's Garden here. No reason to crack both of our Briefcases. We might want to do that for Atraxa, but that's a choice we'll have to make later. We'll have 7 lands when we play the Topiary Stomper. So let's go ahead and do this now. We're going to want a black land. We play our island. We do have to crack our Briefcase for this, but I think it's going to be worth it. Just getting rid of Gix here. Our opponent, very likely in mono black, will have removal for our Stomper. Sure, they can get back their other Gix if they'd like to. Let's see, our opponent did mill some cards. Destroy target creature, so they have Pylon, so that we know that they're running the Convoke removal spell. Let's end the turn here. Hold up Beseiju, just in case there's anything that we have to worry about here. Edict, okay. So our opponent has multiple different removal spells. Glad to see them use this before we play out our Atraxa. Alright. Let's go Atraxa. Draw a card. Let's see what we find here. So we'll take an invasion, take this, Mirex, go for the throat. Now if we play Mirex as our untapped land, we can actually hold up, go for the throat. So I kind of like that. Alright, Shieldred's Edict. That's fine. Unfortunate, but fine. Nice. I mean, we kill that with Go for the Throat if our opponent attacks. We really do want to see some life gain. But denying our opponent card draw was more important there. I think we go Sunfall. Draw a card. Let's see. I'm not really concerned about keeping up the Seiju here, so we'll go Invasion. Let's grab a black and a white land. At least some solid ramp. Alright. I think we're gonna go for Virtue here. It's gonna be a little risky, but we'll draw another card. Now we can hold up Leyline Binding, which is gonna be really strong for us as well. Play the Headquarters as a tap land, and we'll pass the turn. So we have the mana for both Leyline Binding and our token here, so we're actually gonna be in a pretty good spot. Opponent says good game, looks like we stabilized. Alright, opponent goes first. This looks like a good starting hand. Alright, playing up against... Maybe it's a toxic deck. If we see a green land, we'll know it's toxic. Mono white could be... Okay, mono white. Sunfall is going to be really big for us. Opponent wants to keep everything alive here. Let's go Plains. We could play up the Beanstalk, but let's get rid of Skrelv instead. This is just going to gain us some extra life as well, which is definitely going to come in handy for us later. Alright, so we're gonna need double white. So let's play this out, get ourselves double white so we can Sunfall. Since Sunfall is gonna be big for us. Alright, now we could be greedy, but greed doesn't win us games, so let's go ahead Sunfall here. Clear the board, and now we'll have a 5/5 token that we can pull out in one of our later turns as well. Looks like we've got it. Alright, so now that we've seen how powerful the Atraxa deck is for winning games, I think the one major downside to a deck like that when it comes to climbing ranked is that it doesn't often play very quickly. So instead, we're going to go ahead and play an aggro deck in standard ranked to try and make it through platinum a little bit faster, right? Try and speed up the time it takes us to increase our rank. Now, here we're playing a Gruul aggro deck. It has all the aggressiveness of a mono red deck with some added value in green. We can actually protect some of our creatures from removal here. All in all, this is going to be pretty powerful. Let me just talk through some of the cards we have. So, Ancestral Anger, Sorcery Speed, it's going to get better over the course of the game. It gives us card draw, which is good, and it's going to increase the power of our attacking creatures. The Cacophony Scamp here, we can sacrifice it when it deals combat damage to a player. Now, while it does let us proliferate, and I mean, there is potential for us to get value there, the real thing here that we are taking this card for is its death trigger, letting it deal damage equal to its power to any target. So if we can buff this up and hit our opponent by giving it something like Trample, by giving it positive modifiers, and then sacrifice it, we can actually deal double damage that way, which is really strong. Kumano is an incredibly powerful early enchantment, gives us that +1/+1 counter, flips into a creature. Swift Spear is also going to get a lot of value off of all the spells we plan on casting, which will also be incredibly powerful. Monstrous Rage, new addition. I mean, this is a standard in mono red decks, and it'll be a standard in our Gruul aggro deck as well. We also have Audacity for Trample, an additional bonus and card draw. Giant Growth to kind of get around weird blocks. Really kind of surprise our opponent for 1 green mana, and for pushing through a little bit of extra damage. Keep in mind, with an unblocked Cacophony Scamp, or a Cacophony Scamp with Trample, this is potential for 6 extra damage for as little as 1 green mana. Very strong. Now, Picnic Ruiner has 2 potential things that we can do. We can cast it for its Stolen Goodies Adventure, adding 3 +1/+1 counters among any number of creatures we control. We can also go ahead and just play it as a 2/2 with the ability to have Double Strike if we have a creature with power 4 or greater. So that's also really strong. Questing Druid is another one of our adventure creatures here, and first and foremost, Seek the Beast is going to be really strong for us, letting us exile the top 2 cards of our library and play them until the end of our next turn, so that gives us a little bit more fuel into the mid to late game. And when we play out our Questing Druid, it's actually going to get bigger for each red spell that we cast, which is going to be pretty nice, given that this is a Gruul deck leaning a little heavier towards that red side. We're running 2 copies of the Yavimaya Iconoclast here. It's a 3/2 with Trample for 2 mana, so decent stat line. And if we kick it, it's going to get an additional +1/+1 and haste until end of turn. So for 3 mana, we have a 4/3 haste creature. That's pretty strong. The mana base, fairly straightforward. Bunch of mountains. We're leaning towards that red. We have Sokusan and Beseiju, as well as 2 copies of Thran Portal to kind of help us out in the early game, making sure we hit our mana. So yeah, let's take a look and see how this does. Alright, this looks pretty good to me, so we'll go ahead and keep. Start with the Copperline Gorge, Swift Spear. And we do have 2 copies of Rockfall Vale in our opening hand, so this is going to be a tap land for us next turn. We'll go ahead and play our tap land. We have a couple of options for our next turn. Since we'll have access to 3 mana, we can go with the Iconoclast. Might be strong. I really kind of want to save our Questing Druid. See, not sure what our opponent has to think about here. Alright, so we're looking at Thalia. Iconoclast with the kicker. 4 damage. Next turn, we can attack again, use Giant Growth. We have Audacity as an option as well. But we're gonna attack first. No blocks. Let's play out our Picnic Ruiner. Alright, Copper Coat. This is fine. No blocks here. Okay, we find our land. Let's go Audacity on the Iconoclast. We can hold up Giant Growth, swing out like this. This gives Double Strike. Now that we have Double Strike here, 10 damage. And we've got it. Alright, on the play. We'll keep this. We don't really need the green lands right away. We're going to start with Monastery Swiftspear. Attack. And it's looking good. We're going to play out our Picnic Ruiner. Alright, now let's go Ancestral Anger. Let's see. We'll go ahead and put that on our Picnic Ruiner. Prowess trigger. Gets destroyed. That's fine. Monstrous Rage on our Swiftspear for another Prowess trigger. Ancestral Anger. Draw a card. There's 9 damage. Now we need to find the green land. We do not. We'll just attack like this. Maybe it draws removal. It does. Phyrexian Fleshforgers, a little bit of an issue. There's another red land. And it seems like our opponent has stabilized here, and we have not found our green land. Let's go next. Alright, opponent goes first. This looks like a decent starting hand, so we'll go ahead and keep it. Gonna start with Copperline Gorge, play out Cacophony Scam. I think we want our untapped Thran Portal, so we will go ahead and play this. We'll play it on green. Let's go ahead and cast Audacity on the Cacophony Scam. If our opponent has removal, they'll use it here. One damage. That's fine. Now, we should have tapped with Thran Portal, so we could have played out Kumano there. That was an auto-tap issue. Either way, we're going to play Kumano this turn. Play out our Forest. And we'll end the turn. We're playing up against a mono-red deck, so all of their removal is going to be damage-based. Alright, +1/+1 counter on our next creature, so let's go ahead play the Iconoclast, kicked, for that extra +1/+1 counter. Lightning Strike out of our opponent, that's fine. Next turn, Kumano flips. We can use Questing Druid to find some cards off the top. Looking good. Questing Druid. Play our Mountain. Play our Swiftspear. Play our Cacophony Scam. And we'll swing out. Play with fire, sure. Again, I'm not sure what our opponent's trying to accomplish here, but they are using all of their spells to kill our creatures. Kind of an interesting choice. Alright, we're gonna pay our 1 green here. Play out Questing Druid. Now we're just gonna go for all 3 Ancestral Angers. So let's go ahead and throw this first one on our Cacophony Scam. Play with fire to kill the questing druid. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and put our second Ancestral Anger on the Cacophony Scamp. I'm gonna go ahead and put our third Ancestral Anger on the Cacophony Scamp. Swing out. We will sacrifice. And that gives us 7 damage, and we've got the game. Alright, on the play here. Now, we only have 1 land. Are we going to be able to function off just that 1 land? Maybe. We're going to greed. We're going to keep it. Start with the Swift Spear. Next turn, we'll go for the Audacity on the Swift Spear. And 2 Audacities should really help us. Perfect. Audacity. We don't find that second land, but it's going to be okay. Now, if we do find another land, hopefully it will be able to tap for green, then we can Audacity and Giant Growth on that Swift Spear as well. That'll bring us up to 10 damage next turn. Opponent's thinking about what to do. Alright, Charming Scoundrel. Probably gonna go for the Wicked Roll token. No, they go for the treasure. Interesting. And they swing out with both. That's fine by me. 3 damage. We're ahead of them in terms of tempo. And we do find another land, so let's go second Audacity here. Giant Growth. And then we'll swing in for 10. Opponent's down at 5 now. Notably, they're going to have to block the Swift Spear, and next turn we can play out our Yavimaya Iconoclast for a hasty 3-2 with Trample as well. I want to see one more land. One more land would be great for us. Give us that additional +1 here, so we can swing out for 5 total. Now, if our opponent does play out their frontliner here, they will have enough blocks to survive. And we do find the land. So we're going to go ahead and play this out kick. Opponent's going to need some sort of combat trick here. They have access to 1 mana, and we are swinging out 4 lethal. Let's see. Alright, swinging out. I mean, best block is the Knight on the Swift Spear, and then it's still 5 damage because Trample. What are they going to do with that 1 mana to not die right now? I don't know. Alright, looks like we got it. Alright, going first. I actually don't like this opening hand. We're going to take a mulligan here. This is a little bit better, so we'll go ahead and keep. Bottom our green land that we're not sure if we'll be able to cast, and we're going to play out Kumano first. Next turn, we'll play out Cacophony Scamp, hold up 1 mana so we can use Monstrous Rage if needed. We play out Sokuzan. Cacophony Scamp gets that +1/+1 counter. And if our opponent tries to hit this with like a play with fire or something like that, we can use Monstrous Rage to keep it alive. Alright, Felden, sure. Ideally, we see a green land here. If we do see that green land, we're looking at, let's see, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 18 damage, 20. We're looking at lethal if we draw a green land. Alright, couple of different choices for what to do here. Let's start with Ancestral Anger, since that's going to draw us a card. Let's go with another Ancestral Anger, since that'll draw us another card. Thran Portal. Let's see. We can pick green here. And then let's go ahead and giant growth. We will sacrifice. Confirm the permanents. We're not going to proliferate any. 8 damage here. And our opponent's down to 1. Alright. We've now secured a win for this game. Monstrous Rage. Swing out. And we've got it. Now, interestingly enough, I think we're going to keep this. We're kind of going all in on our Iconoclast here. Start with Kumano. This might be the mirror matchup. Bodes well for us if it is. We get that +1/+1 counter. No haste, though. Interesting Proving Ground. Wasn't expecting that. Let's go ahead and put Audacity here. And throw Audacity here. Kind of share up the love just a little bit. And then, I think... Which one do we want to be slightly larger? I think we'll pick the Iconoclast here, because that extra +1 will survive a Lightning Strike. So now we're presenting lethal for next turn. Opponent's going to have to kill one of these. If they don't kill both, Giant Growth is going to fix our problem, as either of these remaining threats will go ahead and secure the win for us. I'm curious what the Proving Ground was for. It does give access to black. I think worst case scenario for us, our opponent is just gonna be able to, like, wipe our board. But 3 mana is not a lot for them to deal with this board state, that's for sure. Yeah, I think we're just gonna get the rope here instead. Alright, well, we'll play out our land, play out the Swift Spear, and we'll just swing out with everything. And we've got it. Alright, and here we are going first. This looks like a pretty good hand for us, so we'll go ahead, start with the Swift Spear. Next turn, I think we'll look at the Ancestral Anger Giant Growth angle, perhaps. We're actually going to be playing against what looks like is going to be an Atraxa deck, maybe a Domain deck. So we're going to play out our Picnic Ruiner instead. Alright, let's go Rockfall Veil. Ancestral Anger. And we've got it, okay. Alright, so now you've all had a chance to see just kind of how quickly this deck can play and win games. Also has a pretty decent win rate as well. So if you are considering an aggro deck, this is definitely one that I would recommend. Now, I think this is where I'm going to go ahead and stop the video for today. I'll play a couple more ranked games in the meantime and get ready for the next video in our series as we continue ranking up. But if there are any specific decks that you want to see me play on the ranked ladder, or if you want to see me move over to Explorer or Historic, please let me know, and I'll make sure that I do that for one of my future videos, as it doesn't really matter what format you choose to climb with ranked in. I've just picked Standard since it's a little bit easier with some of the cards that they have in that format and with the metagame. But yeah, do let me know in a comment if that's something that you want to see. Otherwise, I will see you all next time.